Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Hi there, everybody, and welcome to Monorail Monday, episode number 39. Episode 39 of some of the behind-the-scenes stories, a look at behind-the-scenes operations and things like that when it comes to working at Walt Disney World many years ago when I did it, and see sometimes just how things work behind the scenes as well as things that have changed. And change is kind of what I wanted to talk about today. Changes that have occurred since my time there, and how are things a little bit different. A lot of the operational stuff stays the same. The things like the Haunted Mansion, you know, that the technology for some of that, for some of the effects in there are ancient, very old. They're not newfangled computer generated kind of things. So the operation, the way things work, a lot of it is very old and has stayed the same. There's a lot of new changes in the way things are done, procedures, efficiency, and some things like that. But we're going to talk a little bit about some of the changes that have occurred over the last, well, basically since I was there, 25 to 30 years, in some of the things that are going on. So the first thing I want to talk about is the fandom. The fandom of Disney, the obsession of Disney and Mickey and the parks. And that has grown exponentially. People were fans before. There always have been die-hard, obsessed Disney fans. When I was there, people used to come up to us. People knew when we were renewing our insurance. And so they would basically come up. I had people multiple times ask me for my insurance packets, the booklets, the information stuff, just to have something that had Disney on it that they couldn't get in a store, that they couldn't get anywhere else. People asked for our pens at the monorail stations. We didn't have any fancy pens. They were just pens that said Walt Disney World. You can buy similar pens most places. But it was like, you know, like a hotel pen or something like that. People were obsessed with those. They're obsessed with our insurance packets and just anything like that. The checklists for the monorail or checklists for the station, opening up a station in the morning, I had people come up and ask me for that. So these people did exist before. It's not like they never existed. But the volume of how many people are obsessed increased exponentially. It was incredible how many more people, and part of that is information. When I was first working at Disney, and even when I was a kid and I was obsessed about Disney, I found information everywhere I could. A lot of information that you had to sort of dig for is now freely available everywhere. One of the things I used to do is I went into libraries and microfiche and some of the old newspaper editions, things like that, and I was obsessed, even back in the 70s, 80s, with trying to find out some of the old articles from when it first opened and things like that. I was there in the very early days, but trying to pull up this information again when I was a little bit older, in my teens. I would pull all this information up, and it was a little bit of a challenge to go find some of this information, pull it out, look things up, find dates. Now pretty much all you got to do is blunder into some fan site and you can have you can have access to every story, every rumor that ever happened. So everybody is like very instantly knowledgeable about a ton of stuff. And then just having more people, the more these communities sprang up with the internet, the more it all fed on itself. More people like encouraging each other. Just fandom in general exploded. I remember getting on AOL, or not, before that, Prodigy. I was on Prodigy, and I found a couple of people who were asking on one of the message boards there, and this is back around, I don't know, 92, 93. This is old days. This is even before the AOL version of the internet. This is even before that. And message boards, Usenet, not Usenet, bulletin boards and that kind of thing. But back in the very early 90s, when I found there are all these people on there, the very small number there are relative to now, but asking questions about Disney, and me getting on there and, hey, I work there, I can give you some information, and sharing this information with somebody, you know, in Wisconsin or something, and talking to them about what they can do, what they should plan for, and things like that when they come to Disney. And then meeting these people will come by 5 months, 4 months, 6 months later and say, hey, we're looking for Bill and we're so and so and stuff. So I met a couple of these people, these very early days of the internet, and it was, you know, it was really interesting and fascinating. Wow, I found somebody else. I found somebody who also likes a band that I like, you know, 5,000 miles away, and we're obsessing about this together. So that kind of stuff like just exploded on the internet. Disney was no different. The fandom exploded. The number, now you've got people, you know, there's thousands of YouTube channels with people doing Disney stuff. There's blogs. There's all sorts of the stuff. So this kind of stuff exploded. We had video cameras in the parks. We had cameras shoved in our face sometimes, but they're the big bulky ones. Not everybody wanted to carry those. But sometimes you get a big bulky camera in your face in the monorail cab, and it's kind of like, now, like, everything's a camera, everything's a phone, or every phone is a camera. So you basically have just a mass. This stuff is everywhere now. You can't get away from it. Whether you're rude or not, if somebody just decides they don't like what you're doing, the phone comes out, they're shooting video of it. If they love what you're doing, the phone comes out, they're shooting video of it. So that part is very different, and it's just everywhere. It's just exploded everywhere, and it makes it a little bit different for what you got to deal with. We could deal with guests a certain way, and we didn't necessarily have to worry about cameras and videos and all this stuff coming out, and people, I think there's a little more reaction from people to certain things that feel like they're going to catch people in the act or something like that. So you're going to end up seeing a little bit more of that. But that's one of the ways the fandom has just exploded. Entitlement has exploded quite a bit too. But I think it's the balance probably isn't that far different. It's just there are so many more entitled people, and there are so many more of the great guests. So that's one of the biggest changes that's happened. There's just more of everything, and as part of that, let's say bigger cast, more parks, more synergy. This is the second really big change. When I was there, that Disney was definitely buying. The Disney decade was happening, or in some case, was an idea in people's minds. Hadn't even happened yet, and then it started to happen. And Disney definitely started buying things, acquiring more things, looking for more properties, looking to expand their operations. And after I left, all of that stuff happened. Disney bought ESPN, Disney bought ABC, Disney now owns Star Wars and Marvel, and all that kind of stuff exploded. So there's a huge amount of synergy. A lot of the TV shows, the ABC sitcoms and TV shows that filmed at Disney, a lot of that happened right off the synergy. Hey, look, the other people are going, these people are going to Disney now. This family's going to Disney, and they all filmed at, you know, Walt Disney World. During my time, I remember the Muppets filmed at Disney, but there weren't all the shows filming there constantly. But the synergy, the ESPN, Wide World, the ESPN opened up when I was there, and that was really cool. That was really cool. I had the big sports complex there. Went to a whole bunch of spring training games with friends and co-workers and things like that. Usually got some sort of a discount for some of the spring training games, but yeah, we went to the Wide World of Sports a bunch at least when it first opened, and they had a lot of things going on there. It's kind of slowed down a little bit during my time, but all of this synergy really just exploded. There were more things coming, Disney University. I can't remember if that started when I was there or shortly after, but there was a lot more of this coming in and increasing the conventions. They already had conventions there, but the Contemporary Convention Center, that behemoth that I hated seeing get built right in front of the Contemporary, looked awful. Looked like a big giant warehouse. But a lot of that stuff, so that's all exploded and grown, and there's so much synergy and pop culture and tie-ins to IP and things like that, and that's changed a huge amount from what it used to be. So one of the other things that I've noticed that's been a big change is Disney becoming more stringent about certain things. And having talked to current cast members and friends who are current cast members versus when I was there, there's fun or goofy things we had a good time with, or we could have a certain amount of silliness that would not really necessitate any issues from management or concern. We could have some fun and not really see a huge problem with it. We're able to work overtime in other areas like I did. You can't do it in the same way that I did when I was a cast member. I was able to work overtime just about anywhere. I just pick up the phone, hey, you guys got any open shifts for untrained people on this ride or this area? That's about rides and more about specific attractions. Magic Kingdom East, Magic Kingdom West, different groups of attractions. So if you were in one of those areas, you could work just about any ride once you were trained on all of them. So that changed quite a bit. Disney did start allowing some facial hair after I left, which when I showed up, I had a mustache and it was like, got to get rid of that. You can't work here with that. And the slightest facial hair growth and they were right on top of you. But they were definitely a lot more stringent, or there's a lot more stringent rules nowadays. And also social media, they are very on top of social media. You have to be careful as a cast member what you're saying or blogging or whatever you're doing with cameras, video. You have to be kind of careful what you're saying. You can say things, but you also can't say things. There's a lot of things you just need to stay away from. So that's something we did not have to deal with. We weren't posting a whole bunch of opinions, and nobody really cared if I shared something with some guy in Wisconsin or Wyoming. Whereas now, if I shot a video and I was a cast member and I show how things work backstage or something, people are not going to be very happy about that. So the rules are definitely a lot more stringent. And one of the other huge changes has been strollers, wheelchairs, people with disabilities, scooters. There are, if you've been going like I have, if you've been going to Disney since the 70s, there were strollers and wheelchairs back then, but it seemed like most people rented strollers from Disney. And you had the old blue topped strollers. Some people would bring some, but the strollers were smaller, there weren't as much stuff. And then even when I was there, what I call the limousine strollers, those things started exploding, and more people were able to bring big, elaborate, luxury strollers and piling really not so much kids in it, but more stuff in the strollers. And people would be asked to fold up the strollers to get on the monorail. You know, there'd be a big huff and puff about it because they have everything in there. The kids walking outside the stroller, but now they've got to get all their crap out of it. So that the size of the strollers has changed. The amount of strollers / wheelchairs and scooters has changed. So just in sheer volume, there are way more scooters and wheelchairs and strollers abounding, and a lot more of less of the Disney rented ones more of the luxury ones people are bringing in, as well as there's way more services that do these things, services that rent scooters and wheelchairs and strollers, and it's a little cheaper than renting them in the parks, so people rent those locally too. So there's a lot more of those coming in too. So just the volume adding on top of the increase of number of guests volume, it's just all added up to way more. So more obsessed people, more of them, more people wanting to travel there, the strollers and the wheelchairs and the scooters, it all adds up to making things a lot more crowded. More people, I think, go to Disney on their days off that are cast members now than did when I was a cast member. We did not go all the time when we were off because we worked there. We were there all the time, 40, 50, 60 plus hours. I didn't want to go hang out and stand in lines on my days off. And because we didn't have the phones, the cameras, there are very few pictures of me working at Disney in costume. It just didn't happen very much. We didn't carry cameras with us all the time. And when I did, I might go with friends and things like that, but I was not really getting my photo taken in costume or anything like that. So in some ways I wish I'd had access to things like that. On the other hand, I'm glad I didn't have to deal with phones in my face all the time. So that's a look at some of the big changes that we've had in Disney over the last 20-30 years and even beyond. We'll be back next week for episode 40. Amazing episode 40 of Monorail Monday coming next week. Definitely enjoy and appreciate everybody liking, subscribing, sharing, and telling your friends. Remember, kids, have a good time all the time.